Ooh wee! I don't think that's gonna get old anytime soon. Alright guys, today we will be installing this steering wheel. I will of course put links for everything in the description below. This is just the shell, which is the ultimate end product, but to make this work, we have to take the guts from this with all the controls. Pretty much everything on the inside of the steering wheel that is not the sort of silver colored frame from this steering wheel with the airbag and get it all transferred over. This steering wheel right here is actually from a Corolla IM. The one in the middle is from a regular Corolla, and you can get this with or without the regular Corolla airbag, all of which is of course transferable over to the IM steering wheel. Like I said, I will put links for all this stuff in the description below. I got all of it on eBay, and this is definitely one of those things that's sort of good to be patient and shop around. I was able to find stuff with like the buy it now option where you can get things a little cheaper. You may be able to get the regular Corolla steering wheel with the airbag as one unit. I found it was actually cheaper for me to get the Corolla shell with the electronic connections and the airbag separately. So just be aware of that, shop around, save yourself a little bit of money. Now what I love about this wheel is obviously it looks awesome. It has a carbon fiber finish on the bottom part, which is also flat, you might notice. It is not a full circular wheel, and on top. And the part right here where you do actually grip is nice and aggressive, and it feels actually amazing when you're driving around. I've never been actually happy to put two hands on the steering wheel when I'm driving, but with this, that makes that part actually pretty enjoyable. And I know it's dark in here, but there's actually red stitching holding all the leather on the steering wheel on, which of course beautifully matches my sweet Scion FRS seats. All of the controls do work on the steering wheel, including the cruise control right down here, which is swapped over from one of the other wheels I'll show you in just a second. Now, in addition to all the wheel expenses, if you do have a 2012 or 2013 Tacoma, you will have an added expense of getting the wire harnesses from the inside of a 2014 or 15 Tacoma to swap over to the new wheel setup. As far as compatibility goes, obviously they work on the later second gen Tacomas, so 2012 to 2015. I would imagine just getting the actual physical steering wheel and airbag to work on the earlier second gen Tacomas, I would imagine that would work. I'm not sure about the button setup on the older second gen steering wheels. So you can see this is what I have on this steering wheel. You've got your up, down, center, volume, up and down, mode, hold, the back button, and then all the Bluetooth stuff and display over here. And a quick comparison to my factory 2014 Tacoma steering wheel. Even though the setup is slightly different on this steering wheel, all the buttons are the same. The central part of this steering wheel is from a 2014 to 2018 Corolla. Some of the Corollas have additional buttons for like blind spot monitoring. I want to say they're over here on the right side, so obviously those will not work since that's a system incorporated on the Corolla and not the second gen Tacoma, so just be aware of that. Also, now don't quote me on this, I believe some of the newer 4Runners also use the exact same steering wheel as the later second gen Tacomas, so I would assume this steering wheel setup, if you like this, will work on the 4Runners. Don't quote me on that, that's just an assumption. And when I posted a picture about this steering wheel, this one is specifically from a Corolla IM. Someone said I don't know if it's all of the RAV4 models or just like the sportier trim models use the same exact steering wheel as the Corolla IMs. Again, just assuming, don't quote me on that, but I would assume the steering wheel on the RAV4s with this setup would also work, assuming the button layout is the same. But that's something you guys would have to figure out for yourself.
I wouldn't make that assumption.
And just in case you were wondering, yes, all of the buttons on the steering wheel light up at night, as you can see displayed right here. Got the truck, I haven't started the truck, just turned it on. And when I turn the lights on, they all illuminate, and it looks like a sort of light blue. Definitely looks pretty sweet at night. Now, one quick thing to mention regarding the illumination of all these switches. My buddy did the same exact mod to his Tacoma. He has a 2012 Tacoma, so I don't know if it's because it's an earlier Tacoma or not, but his would not illuminate, and again, that could just be bad bulbs on the regular Corolla steering wheel he bought or whatever, so I don't know if he can swap those bulbs or if it's just simply because it was a slightly older Tacoma, so just be aware of that. But on my 2014 Tacoma, they worked without having to do any kind of wiring. Okay, obviously the factory Tacoma steering wheel will need to completely come out to get this to work, but what I'm going to do first is show you guys how to actually take everything off of the Corolla steering wheel, get it transferred over with the airbag onto the Corolla IM steering wheel. If you are not already confused, you probably will be soon. But in actuality, it's not too bad. We'll just take this apart one piece at a time, get everything transferred over. One thing I will mention, this V plastic trim piece right here, and that's all it is, just a trim piece. It does come in silver factory on the Corolla wheel. I popped this off and painted it sort of like a flat black just to make it sort of blend in better. And the Toyota logo, just like the Toyota logo on the Tacoma wheel, that does come. This part right here is black, but the Toyota logo is actually chrome, so I actually plasti dipped that. I just taped around it, and I used plasti dip specifically since, you know, you can just peel it off. And that probably would have been a pain if I tried to paint that. So let's get started. And for step one, this is the back of the regular Corolla steering wheel. This entire plastic trim piece that just covers up anything once the wheel is installed, that does have to come out. And if you just grab one of your plastic trim removal tools and start on one edge, you can carefully pry that out. It does sound like it's going to break when it comes off, but I was able to get mine off without too much difficulty. And if I flip it over, there are these two hook tabs right here. Just be aware, try not to snap those. And a spearheaded tab on either side. That is all that is holding this onto the back of the regular Corolla wheel. Next step is the cruise control stalk right here is held on by these two Phillips head screws right there and a few tabs on the metal. So we're going to go ahead and remove those. Be careful with the plug on this. Obviously make sure it doesn't snag on anything, and we are going to go ahead and remove that and transfer it over to the IM wheel. And there's the cruise control stalk transferred over. Next up, we will be removing this V-shaped trim piece from the regular Corolla steering wheel. If you just flip the entire thing over, you see there are 4 small Phillips head screws to remove, and then you'll be able to pop that out by pushing it from the back side. Just be careful not to strip these, because you know anytime you're messing with these small screws, easy to strip and damage them and get them all messed up. So just remove those 4 screws. Next step is to remove this entire trim piece that has all the controls on it. It is one piece. From the front you have 2 screws to remove, Phillips head, one there and the other one there. Then you will flip it over. You will take your plastic trim removal tool. There is sort of like a mini plastic pyramid on this side right here and another one right here too. You have to depress those down, and same for this small dome plastic piece right here and there. My buddy did this on his truck, and I think he said he snapped one of these. But so if you do that, we're going to see if we can avoid that. But if you do that, don't be too worried, because when you reinstall it, he said the 2 larger screws right here do a perfectly fine job of holding everything in place, so it's nice and tight, not like everything's going to be rattling around if you do break 1 or 2 of those tabs on the back side. Okay, quick update. Once those 2 screws are removed from the front, I took my plastic trim removal tool and depressed the pyramid that was sticking up on both sides. It detached from the bottom right here first. You can see, just make sure you're doing this controlled so you don't snap anything. And I was trying to press down this middle piece just with the end of my Phillips head screwdriver, and my buddy noticed there is actually a tab right here, a hook tab. If you take, that was holding the entire thing in place. I was about to snap it and make that mistake. If you take your plastic trim removal tool, get it in there and just pry it off. Once that is loose, you can see like this whole side is now free. So just be aware of that. And finally, with those 2 hook tabs loosened so they're not holding it, there was a little more resistance, so I took the end of my Phillips head again and firmly pressed down on the little pyramid that was sticking out on both sides, and the entire thing came free. And there you can see we do have those trim pieces removed from the regular Corolla wheel. You will not be using the factory wire harnesses that come with the Corolla wheel. Your wire harnesses that are already in the truck will work, so we need to get these off of the trim pieces. There is a zip tie on either side. Simply snip that and remove those. So if you do have a 2012 or 2013 Tacoma, you will have the added expense of ordering these wire harnesses that come from a 14 or 15 Tacoma to make this work. And with the zip tie connections snipped, just go ahead and unplug both of the plugs on either side. For the next step, this is the back of the regular Corolla wheel. There are these 3 weird shaped pins we need to remove. There's one right here, and then one vertical arranged on either side. To get them off, just take your trim removal tool and pop this up, and then it will, once it clears the stub right there, it lifts over it and you can push the entire thing out and get these transferred over to the new wheel. This is the back of the new Corolla IM wheel, and when you are putting these weird little brackets back into place, they do go on very easily once you slip them sort of under and over, because this stud right here is ramped, so they pop right into place. This is what helps lock the airbag into position, so they definitely are important. Okay, once you get those 3 clips or pins or whatever you want to call them transferred over to the IM wheel, at this point you are now done with the regular Corolla wheel, so you can get it out of the way, move on to better things. The next step is to go ahead and remove the factory steering wheel, which of course does have that airbag, so just err on the side of caution. Go ahead and remove your negative battery cable. Give the truck a little while to get all that latent electrical charge out of the system, and we'll move on to the next step. For the next step, you do need to remove the 2 side access panels on your steering wheel. This is obviously the driver's side, and when you do that, you will grab a T30 Torx bit. I had to use a 3/8 extension on mine to get the bolt that is right up there. That will not fall out because it is in a cage, so just get that one loose and do the same thing on the passenger side. With both of those side bolts removed, the airbag is now loose, so we're going to flip that up and disconnect it from the back with a small to medium sized flathead screwdriver. With the airbag assembly sort of pulled up and rotated out so you can access the back, you're going to take your screwdriver and pop up the yellow tab of both this black connection and the orange connection. Once that tab is popped up, go ahead and remove those connections. Once those yellow tabs are up, I just use my plastic trim removal tool to anchor under there and pop each one up. And then next up, remove the power to the horn, which is this black wire right here. Next step is to go ahead and disconnect both of these white plugs right here. There's a smaller one on the right, slightly larger one on the left. And next up, we are going to remove the center steering wheel nut, clock spring nut, whatever you want to call it. 19mm socket, and I put an extension on my ratchet, obviously a little too long. I think that's like a 6-inch. 3-inch probably be fine. Go ahead and remove that center bolt, center nut. For removing that center nut, it might be easier if you have an impact gun to do it, just because I was trying to do it with my hand ratchet. I actually had my buddy hold the steering wheel so I could pop that free, because obviously as soon as you start turning it, the steering wheel starts to move, and I'm trying to keep this dead center, so when I put the new steering wheel on, it's lined up perfectly so I can sleep at night. But just keep that in mind. And one quick thing to mention, if you did have your steering wheel in the perfectly upright position like I do, your clock spring is going to want to rotate a little when you're removing it out, because you have to sort of move the wires around so they don't snag. But if your steering wheel was in that up and down position, the plug right here will be at the 12 o'clock position, so just keep that in mind if this does slide around so you don't freak out like I almost did. Okay, this is the rear of the factory Tacoma wheel I just removed. We need to get access to the wire harnesses for all the controls right here. So when you flip it over, go ahead and unplug both of those. The larger one right here on the, when you're looking at it from the back, on the right side. And on the other side with the cruise control stock, there is a small one right there. Go ahead and make sure those are unplugged. So when we flip this over, you're going to take some snips or maybe a razor blade if you have surgical skill. There is a black zip tie right here we need to snip, and one on the other side to release those so we can move the wire harness out from the factory assembly. And with that wire harness fully removed from the factory Tacoma wheel, we are now done with this. For the next part, I had the control panels flipped upside down, went ahead and plugged in the 2 plugs for the controls on there, and I'm going to go ahead and take, while I have access back here before I get that on the wheel, 2 zip ties and zip tie them around. You can see one of these, when you're looking at it from the back side, the one on the left, plenty of room in there to maneuver. The one on the right, the wire clump, I guess if you want to call it, is a little larger, so just be careful when you're getting this tucked under this tab right here that you're going to zip tie it to, not to break the protective layer right there. After you get the wire harnesses zip tied in place, just go ahead and slap both of these on with the main protrusion tab into that opening, and then the 2 larger bolts, one there and one there. And then we will put the V-shaped trim piece, which uses the 4 smaller Phillips head bolts. Okay, got all the front trim panels on at this point. Next up is going to be fun. We have to take that whole entire black plastic trim piece, get that slapped on there. Just be mindful of the cruise control stock. There is an opening right there, so it has to go under that, and it should just pop into place. I'm just going to start at one corner and pop that in and work around and get it in there securely. All right, guys, got the new steering wheel up onto the threaded rod right here, getting ready to put the nut on here. I could not find a torque spec for the Tacoma. The 4Runner is 37 foot-pounds, so I guess I'm going to go ahead and try that, or I'm going to get it like good and tight and then see what 37 foot-pounds is, if it's going to click or not. So just keep that in mind. I'll do a little research and put the torque specs up on the screen now if I can find them though. Next, go ahead and take the slightly larger white plug that goes on the left in here, and take the smaller white one, goes on the right. All we have left to plug in now are the two connections for the airbag and the black wire for the horn. On the new airbag, it is actually down here on the bottom right side. When you are plugging the airbag in, you will make sure to press the black and orange tabs right there down until they click, and then you're going to do the same thing with the yellow tabs on the top. Push those down until they also click. And when you are getting the airbag pushed in, there are three like sort of cone-shaped depressions on the back of the airbag that go into the three slots about right here, here, and on the bottom. You'll just make sure those are all firmly pressed in. There's obviously no power going in, so the horn's not going off. You can see just a little movement for when you are going to honk. All right, and next up, time to see if everything worked. Gonna go ahead and reconnect the negative cable on the battery, and hopefully the airbag won't explode, and give the horn a quick test, and just about finished. And that will do it for this video, everybody. Go ahead and give it a thumbs up if you enjoy the content, and comment below. Let me know what you think of this mod. I absolutely love it. It feels amazing, drives amazing, all the buttons work. Could not be more happy with it. Definitely spices up the inside of the truck. So comment below, let me know if you plan on doing something like this for your truck. Stay safe out there, practice social distancing, spend all of your time at home watching Tacomaholic videos. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you guys in the next video.